Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to episode 10 of that Wolfie Rolls podcast. Cannot believe we're in October already. I've had an absolute blast recording all of these episodes, so thank you so much for your continued support and for everyone that's listening in. Before we get into this month's episode, just a few quick things to go over. So first of all, 2 weeks today on the 15th of October, it will be the Southwest Constrictors show. If you haven't already got tickets, I think now is basically your last call. So head on over to the SWC group on Facebook, check out all the details and get your tickets purchased. On the topic of shows, 6th of November, it is also the IHS show back at the Manchester venue. So I will be vending again. If you do see me behind the table, come up, say hello, introduce yourself. I enjoy meeting everyone that's listening and supporting the podcast. So yeah, come on over, say hello and let's have a little chat. You may have also noticed as well that my YouTube channel is now up to date. So all of the latest episodes are up there. So if you do prefer listening on YouTube, you can put that on, listen in the background while you're cleaning snakes or something, I don't know. But yeah, we're up to date on that, which has taken me ages, but we've finally got there. On the topic of YouTube, you may have also seen that I was on the Bullshit podcast with Sean Bradley. If you haven't already watched it, it is up on Sean's channel, which is Bullshit. That's BALLSH exclamation mark instead of an IT, and check out all of the interviews that he's done in the past as well. But just a couple of weeks ago I was on there, so it should be there for your viewing pleasure. On the topic of YouTube, there will also be a Snakes and the Fat Man and the That Wolfie Rolls podcast collaboration, and it will be the infamous Hot Chicks episode with Chris. If you haven't seen the Snakes and the Fat Man Hot Chicks episodes, don't be alarmed by the name. It is really, ironic and satirical. It is highlighting, showcasing, representing the female breeders, specifically here in the UK for this episode, and putting them in the spotlight. So that will be, I think it will be on YouTube. It will definitely be recorded for audio sources like Spotify, etc. So if you can't watch it on the day, I think it's the 22nd of October, then you'll be able to catch up on that as well. So without further ado, let's get into this month's episode. This is episode 10 of that Wolfie Rolls podcast.
Hi, this is Chris from Project Pied, founder member of the SWC group. The other members of the group are Max from CMT Royals, Darren from DJ Constrictors, Ryan from Rival Reptiles, and last but not least, Ross from Armour Key Reptiles. We founded the Southwest Constrictors group to provide a relaxed and friendly reptile show for both new and experienced breeders alike. We had some of the finest breeders in the UK attend our inaugural show back in October. Importantly, the show is brought to you by the breeders for the breeders. So why don't you come along to the next show and see for yourself. For all our updates, join and follow the Southwest Constrictors page on Facebook. We've decided to sponsor that Wolfie Royals podcast because we feel that the UK deserves a podcast like this.
Right, we are live now. So we are joined by Mike from Python Imagery. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to join you.
Perfect, no problem at all. As I said earlier, it'll be like really informal, nothing to worry about. So just give us a brief description of how you started, when you started, and why you started keeping reptiles.
Well, to be honest, I think it started from as a kid. I was just completely obsessed with dinosaurs, as I'm sure is the way for a lot of people who get into reptiles.
Yeah.
And it was just always, they were just the most interesting and cool things to me growing up. And then when I was 13, one of my mum's friends accidentally had bred some corn snakes, and I jumped at the opportunity to get a pair of those. And then shortly after that, I got a job at Pets at Home. And I was working there for a while as the reptile person, which then furthered my interest and got me to teach, learn loads of stuff with that. But I didn't actually get into this until a friend of mine that I met from college, and I bumped into him at my current job where I am now in IKEA.
Yep.
And he had actually just produced his first load of ball pythons, which happened to be piebalgs.
Okay.
And he just showed me pictures, and he was like, I don't suppose you'd be interested in this, would you? And I was like, I didn't even know they came in these sort of colours. Of course I'll grab it.
100%.
And it was as soon as that happened and he opened up my world to all of the variations and everything there are, I was like, that's it. I've got to go into them like Pokemon. You've got to get them all.
That's it. It just snowballs from there, doesn't it?
Exactly, because I literally got that first one, then I got 2 more, then it was 3 more.
Yeah. So what sort of number are you up to now?
The last purchase takes me to number 20.
Okay, so it's gone pretty quickly then.
Yeah. So although I'm sure it's going to grow up even more now that there's actually things in the incubator and holdbacks are involved and whatnot.
So how many clutches are you hoping for? And this is your first season, I'm assuming.
So I actually had my first clutch last year.
Okay.
But I was quite unlucky with that. Only one of them actually managed to make it the full term.
Okay.
Obviously, I ended up keeping her for sentimental reasons and whatnot.
Of course.
Now I've got one in the incubator down here at the moment. The other one that's due soon, and hopefully 2 more that I'll get going.
Okay, so
a pretty steady first. Male to get his shed off.
A pretty steady sort of first proper season to get you going.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And what sort of genes are you working with? What sort of interests you the most?
But at the moment, to start with, I did a bit of a mistake and just sort of impulsively bought everything I didn't have rather than looking for a direction. So a lot of it is just sort of what I've got and putting things together. But now I'm aiming more into 2 specific things. So the clutch I've got at the moment is they've gone with my Hypo Firefly because I'm looking to get some Hypo Lithium things going because he was paired to my lithium pin.
Yeah.
Because I've just because I really want to see what that combo looks like in person. Because in the pictures that I can find online, they vary a lot from darkness to lightness, and I just want to sort of get an idea myself.
Yeah.
And then secondly, so a male that I've just bought from Paul at Urban Constrictors is the banana spot nose clown.
Great
so
pickup.
I'm starting.
Fantastic pickup.
Yeah, as soon as he suggested it, I was like, yeah, I've got to jump on that one. So then I've got a champagne lesser het clown waiting for him.
Okay.
And at Donny, I just managed to pick up a female pastel clown who's already at about the 1,000 gram mark. So just get her a bit bigger, and then hopefully she can go to him as well.
Yeah, that'd be some really good pairings. I mean, spot nose in clown is my single favourite gene in clown. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm only just starting to open my eyes to it. I mean, I didn't even realise until recently that people actually say about the super spot nose.
Yeah, there's people that have bred it and have done okay with it. I know it does produce some variation of wobble. I know there's a couple of people that have put extra genes into super spot noses, and they say that sort of reduces the wobble effect. But personally, I've got no experience with it, so I wouldn't have a clue. But I've never intended to pair spot nose to spot nose just because I don't want to take the chance. Yeah,
no, exactly. I know exactly what you mean, because the reason I ended up purchasing this male from Paul is because originally I've got a spider clown vanilla in the collection that my friend purchased, and I didn't do my proper research into the complexes first, and obviously I bought the champagne to go with him, and then I was like, oh wait, no, that's not going to happen, because definitely you need to clue yourself up.
Yeah, there's a few genes like that. Champagne, spider, spot noses, they can all have issues when sort of bred together. But I've seen a lot more champagne spot noses lately than I ever expected to, because some people because they all sit on the same allele and around the same sort of locus, people are a bit worried with them. But no, I've seen some really nice champagne spot nose stuff actually recently.
Oh yeah. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, I'll have a look and see. I'm sure I got sent one yesterday or today. But yeah, I'll send it over to you. It was really, really nice, actually. So something to look at going forward for sure.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, the thing that I'm trying to make out at the moment is every other champagne lesser that I've seen looks a lot brighter than the female that I've got.
Okay.
And she's got like a marking going over her nose that almost looks like it's some sort of head pattern trying to push through it. So I'm questioning if she might actually be a clown rather than a het.
Well, that'd be quite nice. Not. There's definitely worse things to happen than that happening.
Yeah. Just one of those things. Until I get the babies come out and look for similar traits, I'm not really going to know.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's always difficult. These things take time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's why it's a great thing that I've joined Urban Constrictors Patreon. So it's like, as soon as I get the pictures up, I can ask everyone else for help because I have no clue what they're going to be.
How are you finding the Patreon?
I think it's great. I mean, it's there's a lot of people out there ready to help. You can get good conversations going with it. I mean, on my first day, I posted up a picture of the first the baby I produced last year and the mother, because I still not 100% sure on what she actually is, just to try and get some idea of what's going on. I've got so many answers straight away. It's invaluable, the amount of help you can get from it.
No, it's good to hear. Obviously, Patreon has been slagged off and hit on pretty hard in the past. So it's good to actually hear people have got positive experience of it and are using it for what it's meant to be used for. You know, it's up to you what you want to spend your money on at the end of the day, isn't it?
Exactly that. Yeah, but I was the same. I'd never actually joined a Patreon until this one popped up. And then when it did, it seemed like it was a no-brainer. I had to at least give it a shot and see what was going on.
That's it. You've got nothing to really lose. You know, if you join it for a month or two and you decide that it's not for you, then no one's going to have any hard feelings or be bitter towards it or anything like that. It's horses for courses.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's and again, it is just a great place for everyone to sort of get together, help the community grow together, rather than people feeling like they're on their own. Because I know a lot of people probably felt quite similar to myself, and it's like, I've got the one friend that does it. Other than that, I don't really know anybody else. So when it got to certain things, it was, you sort of left to try and find help on Facebook groups or various things online, and then you don't really know if you can trust the people who are helping you or if they know what they're talking about. And
it's a good reference point, and it gives new breeders like yourself, a chance to get clear, decisive information. Facebook's okay, you can put stuff up on the groups and stuff, but like you say, you don't really know who's helping you. You don't know what their experience is, how long they've been in it. I found Facebook is great for people coming into the hobby. They get like 6 months experience and they try and give people a load of answers that are just terribly wrong. And you're like, why are you telling people to do that? It doesn't, it's going to be of no benefit or of no help at all. But no, I think the Patreon's good. There's some really knowledgeable people on there, and it's, from what I've seen so far, it's a pretty fun place to be.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is 5 seconds to scroll through and see the amount of emojis and GIFs that are getting put up on there. You can see everyone's taking it quite light-hearted. No,
it is good. It's a good laugh. So back to the snakes. Going forward, what are your sort of main plans? What are the genes that you want to focus on the most in, say, the next sort of 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, for the next couple of years, it's probably going to be mostly focusing on the clown.
Yeah.
And obviously making advantage of what I'm going to have. But one thing that I've got is I've got a female pastel xanthic that I'm also going to put with the one from Paul at some point. And then I hope down the line to go towards doing some sort of xanthic spot nose clown and try to get the double pets and double recessives going.
100%.
Other than that, I'm just really obsessed with the bamboo stuff at the moment, and there's not too much of that around here. So I've got a bamboo calico cinnamon who I'm putting to quite a few females to try and see what sort of combos I can get from that. That's
a really nice animal. Bamboo was one of those genes that I never really got into, but I'm seeing some really, really nice bamboo stuff now. People have just sat on it and paid a bit of patience with it. It's nice.
Yeah, people listening may not be able to see him, but I have got him right here, and I absolutely love him.
Oh, that's a fantastic animal. Really, really nice.
And that's even with him in shed.
Yeah, that's cracking. You can really see the calico influence on that.
Yeah, as soon as I saw him, that was it. I'm buying him.
Absolutely. I can see why. So where's the sort of sweet spot for you? Where do you want to be at in terms of numbers and sort of clutches that you're producing?
For me, to be honest, just the more the better. I mean, at the moment, I'm sort of restricted to keeping it within the room that I've got.
Okay.
So I'll be looking at growing potentially to about 40 adults.
Okay.
In total. So I'm hoping to have like 30 females, maybe 10 or less males, and have like a mix of some aiming just for codom stuff, and then a couple different smaller projects of recessives. So I have like obviously going for the double hets with the xanthic clown, go for the singular clown stuff, get the hypo stuff going, and then at some point I'd really like to go into confusion or desert ghost. But that's going to be once I've got a bit more money going and pay off some of the stuff that I've got at the moment.
Yeah, nothing's cheap in this hobby for some reason. But no, I mean, I think the xanthic clown stuff will be really, really good for you because banana xanthics look fantastic as well. They're really, really good. So getting that into clown with a spot nose as well, be a really, really nice snake if you can hit the top whack of it and all the genes in there at the same time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. There's actually one that was a morph market at the moment that sort of pointed me in that direction. I can't remember who it was that's bred it, but there's a coral glow xanthic crown on there at the moment, and it just looks stunning.
Yeah, no, they do. I've just seen some hatch recently, and they're really, really nice. So I was actually quite surprised because I'm not the biggest Axanthic fan, but when I saw I think it's banana pastel or banana Axanthic that they'd hatched, it was really, really good, like really, really pretty. So it was quite nice to see, actually.
I was actually quite similar, believe it or not. So I bought the pastel Axanthic. I bought her quite early on into building the collection and everything. And it was when I'd first seen the lightning pieds.
Yeah.
That I was sort of obsessed with that. But it wasn't until you get into it a bit more, you realise that a lot of them seem to fade off and lose their colour as they get older. And then it was like, well, what can I do with the Axanthic that might keep its colour a bit more?
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying there, if you can get into Desert Ghost in the future as well, Desert Ghost and Axanthic, they just go hand in hand for keeping that sort of white and black tone, that really rich contrasting colour.
Yeah, we've got the perfect example of that with Canova at the moment, haven't they? And they're triple recessive.
That stuff's just ridiculous. I actually saw I don't know if you've seen it, Aussie Boyd's posted a picture up yesterday of I want to say it was an Orange Dream Axanthic Desert Ghost pied. And if you haven't seen it, go and check out Aussie Boyd's Facebook or Instagram. It's on there now. It is amazing. Like, amazingly nice. Go and check it out after this. It will blow your mind. It's
I'm going to have
it's
to.
awesome. When I saw it, I was like,
Just
what
a
the hell
shame they
is
don't
that?
look the same in pictures, do they?
No, but I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's not what I expected at all. And it's just super clean. It's really bright and tidy. All right, it's only a hatchling, so it'll probably change a little bit as it gets older, but the Desert Ghost in there is going to help retain and keep some of that colour and that contrast in that combo for years to come.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch grow up.
Definitely. And the possibilities are endless with that as well. You know, it's got the Orange Dream in it already, so whatever he puts it to is always going to improve and just get better and better anyway.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Orange Dream stuff getting put into everything at the moment. I think I need to pick some of that up myself.
Orange Dream exploded a few years back and everyone wanted Orange Dream, and now people are putting supers out there, and it's a must-have in most genes. You know, it's such a good gene for sort of highlighting and sort of colour and stuff. So, yeah, you look at all the top clowns, got like OD Yellow Belly, all the top pieds are Orange Dream Yellow Belly. They just look great and everything. So it's almost like a staple for the multi-recessives now is to get those two in there and build from there.
It definitely seems like it. I think I'm going to have to look around and see what I can get to add that to the collection soon enough.
So what sort of places do you look at for inspiration? Where do you go? What sort of YouTubes do you follow, or Instagrams, etc., that you sort of look at and you go, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to take a punt at some of that?
To be honest, quite a few people. I just look around at everybody and just it's more the snake that would inspire me rather than the pairings or the people. But I do watch a lot of, obviously, Paul. You've got the obvious ones, Brian Barczyk, Billy at Mutation Creation, TA Exotics. I quite like to get a chance to watch some of the more local people. But at the moment, it is probably just getting blown away by Canova and the fact that he seems to be 3 or 4 years in front of everybody.
Probably even more than that. I think 3 or 4 years is being generous. I think you could stop Justin breeding for probably 6 years, 7 years, and I don't think anyone would still catch the combos that he's got. It's ridiculous. I saw an animal that he posted the other day. We talked about it on the Patreon. He had a Desert Ghost pied het clown female up for sale. And the question was like, if you had that money, would you invest in it? And I was like, if I had the money and it wasn't an issue, absolutely, because that's 6 years, 7 years ahead of where I am right now. And I'm hoping to produce double visual DG clowns this year, hopefully double visual DG pieds next year. Even if I waited and paired those, I wouldn't get the combo that he's putting up for sale. And I'd still have to wait another 3 years for, from babies for that to come out. So, he's 7 years, 8 years ahead of where people are thinking, if not more. Yeah,
he's definitely got some secrets behind hidden up his sleeves, isn't he?
He's just the master at it, just whatever he touches turns to gold.
It really does. I mean, I was watching one of his videos earlier, and he's going over the white lace into the clown project, and that was just blowing my mind. How he's already aiming to try and get like he's already got the white lace clown. I think he's trying to get it into the desert. Oh no, he just got it into the desert
white lace DG, hasn't he? Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he goes.
I like the way that he just takes these genes from sort of random obscurity as well, where not too many people are doing much with them, and he just blows them up. You know, things just go crazy. Spot nose, you know, no one wanted spot nose, you know, 5-6 years ago. You know, you could pick up female spot nose for 150 quid. You could buy a female spot nose for, and that'd be a decent size. Nowadays, you know, spot nose clowns are still going for £1,000, something like that. So.
Yeah, they cost the world nowadays.
Yeah, the Canova effect on genes is just fantastic.
Yeah, and then it seems to obviously trickle down as well, because obviously I remember watching one of Paul's videos, and he was saying about how it was Justin had opened up his eyes to spot nose and chocolate into the banana clown stuff.
Yeah.
And it is also, so I sort of feel like I watch over to Billy and Justin and things for like the future and what might come over here. But obviously with us being on the little island, we don't necessarily get the option to some of the things as quick. So they'll sort of filter it down to Paul, Neighbours Constrictors, and see where they are in line with the people over in America and whatnot. And it's like, how do I catch up to them to then try and catch up to America?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the US market is vastly different to the UK market in terms of just quantity, but also pricing of things as well. You know, they've got so many more people keeping, so many more people breeding, that I think these genes are always going to get discovered, played with first. You know, used the way they are at the moment first in the US, and then it does, like you say, it filters over here, it does trickle down. But there is still some really exciting stuff coming out of the UK as well, which is really nice to see. So there's definitely projects that we're ahead of compared to what's going on over in the States. Things like Monarch and stuff were, you know, originated over in Europe. I think there's more people working with, you know, Monarch in the UK than there is the US. So it'd be interesting to see where and how they take genes from, you know, Europe and the UK and sort of explode them over in the US.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the Monarch, actually, because that's something I've been watching, but I can't really, from the pictures that I've seen, I can't actually identify too much what it's doing in the combos that are there. So I'm interested, but not diving into it just yet.
I think it's one of those genes you need to see in person. I was always a little bit skeptical about Monarch, and then I saw some in person, and they are the richness and the colour of the tones that are in there. It's just crazy, like really, really nice, really rich, really contrasting. If you get a chance, go and have a look. I know Darren Stairs is working with Monarch. Eddie Ford's working with Monarch. There are a few people out there that are doing it. So I think there'll be some really nice stuff, some really good stuff coming out for the Monarch stuff soon.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And do you have much of an opinion on the acid gene as well? I've seen that.
I've seen it. It's acid, confusion, and static. They're all the same, aren't they? I believe. I know we don't get too much static over here, but we've got acid, which I believe, was it Josh Jensen originated the acid, I think. Confusion, obviously, I've got a little bit of confusion. I've got a confusion hepide male, which Justin's just released a confusion pied Hetflix that I haven't watched yet, so I need to go and watch that soon. But I mean, I quite like it. It's I say I've got one confusion male here, and I've seen more and more confusion. I know my Neighbours Constrictors is working with confusion. Darren Stairs has got quite a bit of confusion. Ross McKee's doing stuff with confusion as well. So I think there's definitely legs in the confusion project. It does do some really nice things. But I say confusion, acid, static, I think they're all the same. It's just a different line, or a different breed has named a different line at the same time.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't realise that. It was just, I think it was Crystal Palace Reptiles. They've got a acid pinstripe up at the moment. And just the difference from an acid pin to a normal pin just blew me away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all the same. I'll go and double check after this, because now I've said it, I doubt myself, but I'm pretty sure confusion, acid, and static are all the same gene.
Okay. So it doesn't matter which one I get, as long as I get one of them.
Yeah, just go with, you know, what suits your eye and what fits your budget. At the end of the day, that's the majority of things that we decide on in this hobby. That's how we do it, is what do I like the look of and what can I afford?
Yeah, they're quite often two different price brackets for those thoughts, actually.
Yeah, it's very rare that they ever align, but once you start producing and you start selling things and people want to start doing trades and things, then a lot of these genes become more obtainable and more reachable for most people. But then, of course, once those genes have been out there for a bit, the price will drop anyway, and then more and more people can get into them.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I'm mostly excited to actually get some clutches going myself. Not so much to actually start selling some, but more the knowledge I'm going to get for identifying them and the networking that I'm going to get actually selling them and getting to meet more people around.
No, definitely. So going forward, if you could add 3 genes into your collection, what would it be?
Oof. No-brainer would be the Desert Ghost. Definitely need to get some of that at some point.
Yep.
Surprisingly, I don't have Yellow Belly yet, so I really feel like I need to get some of that.
Okay.
And then it would either be between Confusion or Chocolate.
Okay. Yeah. All popular stuff at the moment. I've not got any chocolate yet, and that's something I want to add in. Definitely looking at getting some. So I want to work some chocolate into Clown, but also into the Desert Ghost stuff as well. So
yes, I'm currently trying to toss up between Clown or GHI, or just get both.
I would say always get it into your recessive first. If you can get it into your recessive stuff first, then you're ahead of where you would be if you put it into your codom stuff. But I would put it into recessives first. Yeah, if you make some chocolate het clowns or something, keep the females back, put them in the rack, and then you can make your chocolate combo visuals down the line, and you can still breed those out and keep the males, breed those out to other clown females, whatever, and so make some visual clowns to put to your chocolate stuff down the road.
I feel like I'm going to end up just holding back everything.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm going to be quite greedy this season. I want to try and ramp up my females this year and add a few more females to the sort of collection going forward. So I think I'm going to be pretty greedy with what I keep back.
What sort of a split have you got going at the moment between your male and females?
I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say I'm male heavy because I'm going to be replacing some of my males. So I've got everything in the holdback rack at the moment that's sort of still growing on or just coming out of last season is pretty much male, and there's a couple of females. But I'm going to be replacing some of my older breeder males, so I'm trying to get some fresh blood in that way. Numbers wise, what have I got? I'm running about 12, 15 males at the moment, sort of that I've got. I don't use them all. To probably around 30 females.
So that's pretty good.
I try and always keep 1, 2 at a sort of a minimum. I would like to keep that a little bit higher. I'd like to get to like 1, 3, 1, 4, maybe, just so I've got more females than males. But I've got males here that I haven't used in 2, 3 seasons, so I probably wouldn't ever use them again anyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like I'm already at the stage with a couple of them. It's like, might use it once more, twice more, but then I don't really know what plans I'd have.
Got males here that I bred and I was really looking forward to using, and I've never used. And they're just sitting there doing nothing. And it's like, plans change, things change, so I'm not too worried. But I've got like a banana pied male. I was ecstatic when I first produced that. That was one of the first animals that I wanted to produce. I've never used him. I've used him as a backup male, and that's it. I don't want to keep pairing male bananas to things because I've got banana females that I'm sort of trying to do banana gene work with. So I'd rather keep the females and do it that way and breed something recessive to them just to keep some female holdbacks. But there's a few bits that I say I'll need replacing and just put new blood in. But if I can keep 1, 2, 1, 3 minimum in terms of male to female ratio, then I'm pretty happy.
It's easier said than done, though, isn't it? Because I'm sure it's like everyone gets attached to them, and then you're not quite so eager to move them on.
Yeah.
No, because you've not bred them.
I've picked up males just because I like them, and I thought there's stuff I could do with them. I say quite a lot of times, don't impulse buy, but I've still impulse bought or picked stuff up that I probably didn't really need, but I can find something to do with.
We're all human at the end of the day, and if it comes down to it, if we see something we like, we're going to get it regardless.
And I had the space, so it wasn't like I was cramming stuff in. I had the space. It's quite nice to put. I'll grab it and see what happens, and I'll sort it out down the road. There's it will fit in the plan eventually. It might just mean I have to jiggle some bits around as to when I do what, but it will all work.
That's part of the fun of it, isn't it?
Exactly that. Right, we're coming up to half an hour now, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. Where is the best place on social media for people to find you and sort of see what you got going on and contact you?
Main thing for me at the moment is just Instagram. So it's just the same as you said at the entrance. It's just Python Imagery.
Okay, cool. And so not on Facebook or anything like that at all?
Not yet. No, just my normal personal Facebook. But people are more than welcome to talk to me on there. It's just Michael Matheson, but most people can't spell it.
Just go for Instagram. It's much easier. I tend to use Instagram more than anything these days anyway. I just prefer it. So yeah, Instagram, Python Imagery. Go and check out what you've got going on over there. And other than that, thanks very much for joining me. And I hope you had fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. Look forward to getting to speak to you again.
No problem at all, man. So I'm sure we'll catch up again on the Patreon and things like that.
Yeah, 100%.
No worries. Thanks for coming up, mate. Speak soon.
Hi, this is Andy over at Clubmore Reptiles in Liverpool, sponsoring the Wolfies podcast. We've decided to sponsor the podcast because we massively believe in the reptile community and especially Royal Pythons. So if you're ever in the Liverpool area and you fancy popping in to say hi and having a brew, then come on over. Anyway, back to Wolfie on the podcast.
And there we go, guys. That was Mike from Python Imagery. So I really enjoyed that conversation. It was great to record and sit down with him and things. So like I said before, go over to his social media accounts, drop him a like, follow, subscribe, whatever you need to do to show him some support for the future. Now, on to the main guest for this episode. This guest needs little to no introduction. I'm sure you're probably aware of her if you've been around in the Royal Python scene for a few years. She's been quietly working away in the background, producing some amazing animals for future projects and stuff. And this year, she has really blown it out the water with some of the combos she produced. So, without further ado, this is Sian J. Landon of Eve's Temptations Royal Pythons. And we are live. I'm joined by Sian from Eve's Temptation Royal Pythons and Eve's Temptations Creations. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So, as before, who, what, when, where, why, how did you get into keeping reptiles and specifically royals?
Okay, so back in 2012, we went to a fair and it was hammering down with rain and the only shop that was open was the reptile shop. So we went in there, found cover. I fell in love with a baby bearded dragon, as a lot do. And we decided to get one for Christmas. Then once they dropped that over and set it all up and I did more research, I found that a 3-foot vivarium wasn't going to be big enough for the beardie as it grew. So in January, I went back to the reptile shop and I asked, what could I fit in a 3-foot vivarium? And I was told, oh, you can fit a corn snake in there. You can fit a royal python in there. And I was like, ooh, python sounds a bit meatier than a corn because I don't like corns so much because they don't have necks. So I went to hold an adult royal python and I was like, keep the head away from me because I'm not sure about that end.
End.
Which she did. And then I was like, I quite like it. Yeah, maybe. I think it was a normal. And then she said, come and have a look. We've got some babies. So we went over to where the babies were and she put a pastel female in my hands, 132 grams, I always remember. And as soon as she hit my hands, I was like, oh my God, I love it. I'm in love. And I went home and I said to my partner, I was like, I really like it and I really want it. And his phrase is, oh, it'd be rude not to. So we went back to the shop together the next day and I bought her. She was on sale, £225 for a pastel female. That was back in January, or no, it was February 2013. She was a CB12.
9 years ago.
Yeah, quite a long time ago now. And then I think it was about a month later, we were going in, because at that point we were going in just to get like 4 rats a month. And one of the customers said, oh, what have you got? So I told him what I got. And he was like, oh, you want a spider male now to go with it and make some bumblebees? I was like, what do you mean? And then I started looking into the breeding. So the next time I went in, I asked if they could source a male spider for me. And then about 3 weeks later, I had him, which incidentally, a couple of years later, I found out that that was actually a female. No wonder it wasn't breeding for me. But that's what started it. And then I think it must have been the June I had the Mojave, and then the July I had the albino, and it just went from there then.
Sort of spiraled out of control from there.
It did. But I mean, the prices back then were significantly more than they are now for a lot of those basic things. So I think I'm glad in a way, because if I was getting into it now and getting those sort of more basic things, I would have probably had so much quicker. So I was limited in a way by the funds. But I'm one, I like to collect things, and I like to have like one of everything. So that's why the Royals are quite dangerous for me, really.
So at what point did you decide to start breeding more? And that's when sort of your numbers ramped up to where you are now?
I think it's been reasonably steady. There was never a decision that I was like, right, I'm going to go into this properly and buy. It was just the numbers just crept up and crept up. I think it really escalated because of holdbacks and because I started doing double recessives. So there was more holdbacks, and then with those are breeding, it's more holdbacks again. And I like a double het. So I've got more, it was making more and more double het projects. So my projects, just I got loads more of them.
Yeah.
And then it's the holdbacks from those. So it just sort of escalated really from the small plans I already had.
So when you said about double hets and stuff, what was you buying at the start to sort of make those? Is it like the Pyads, like most people
single
start
gene
with?
recessives, because if you think like back in 2013 when I bought my male pied, he was £650, and that was a good price from Crystal Palace Reptiles. The albino female I bought was £450. All as hatchlings.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are getting into it now when they're buying multi-gene recessives to start their double het projects with. Part of me is really jealous because I'm thinking, well, you know, back in the day when I bought the recessives, I couldn't afford to get the more genes in. So what I'm finding is I've spent years making double hets and, you know, producing normals and normal pos hets and pastels. Now I'm finally producing the double visuals. Now I'm putting that into multi-gene stuff and getting the extra genes in.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people are maybe only just starting their double het stuff now, but they've been able to buy in at a cheaper rate, so they've already got the genes in their double hets.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite way round of doing it, and we'll all get to the same goal at the end, probably around the same time, I should guess. But
was it a conscious decision to start chasing the double het stuff early, or was it just something you kind of fell into because you had a chance to do it?
I think quite early it was the albino pieds first.
Right.
Which I think we're looking at sort of back in 2014, I decided I wanted to do it. 2015, I think my albino female was ready. And then 2016, I think, was when I produced the double hets. And I think after I produced those double hets, I was like, ooh, I've got an axanthic female. I could put the pied male to her next time.
Yeah.
So that was the axanthic pied pair. And then it just escalated from there. And I was just like, oh, what else can I do? And every recessive female I had then, it was sort of, oh, is there something I can put to that to make a double het? And then I realised how much space all of that needs and how long the projects were. But I've got quite a lot of patience. If I want something, I'll work towards it. And I don't really care how long that takes because I'm pottering about doing it. So as long as I'm seeing some form of progress, and that's where I've kept back so many holdbacks of visual pos hets, because I'm like, yeah, I can just grow those up. And that's why I'm in the mess of how little space I've got left now.
Yeah, it does build up pretty quickly. So obviously the double het stuff you've been working with for a while, you're having, you know, quite good success with, you know, the fruits of the labour now as such.
Finally, yeah.
Finally. What sort of things have you hit that you're sort of most pleased about from those projects?
I think, well, I've got the albino pied, which turned out to be female. So I'm still waiting to sort of use that moving forward. I'm hoping next season. The pastel axanthic clown I was really, really pleased about. Because the first year I paired the double hets, they wouldn't even go near each other. So it was that anticipation of having to wait another year, even though they were ready. And then to hit it on the first clutch of eggs I had from them sort of made up for the fact I had to wait another year. So I was very pleased with that. And because he was male, now I've used him all this season, and I'm really seeing the fruits of that now with other genes added in. So I'm really excited about that one. Last season I hit the pastel xanthic desert ghost, which I was elated by. But that was female. So again, it's waiting for
playing the waiting game another 2-3 years.
So it's almost like I don't have it yet because I can't use it yet. So come now another 1.5 2 years or something, I'll be more excited about that then. And then this season, finally, the third year of trying with my double hets, I've produced the xanthic pied. Well, 2 in the clutch, a 4-egg clutch, which I was very pleased about.
Good odds.
And sexed them today, and they're both male, and I wanted a male, so very happy. So hopefully in not too distant future now I can actually start using that one. Start
pushing that project along a little bit.
Yeah, and again, because I'm getting the double visuals now, I've got the opportunity, do I put the xanthic pied male to the xanthic desert ghost female? All xanthic, 100% het pied desert ghost. You know, it's things like that that I can now do down the line because I've got the double visuals on the alternative sexes. And then I was also really lucky then to hit 2 super pastel xanthic clowns this season from the one clutch, which are both female. So where I've got the pastel xanthic clown male, now I've got the opportunity, do I keep a super pastel double recessive female as well? Probably.
Yeah, you've got to. If it's been that long a journey to make them and finally achieve it, then I'd keep them.
Yeah,
I'd probably keep both. I'd get greedy.
That project's getting quite large now. I've got multiple clutches this season from the pastel xanthic clown male. He's sired 2 triple het clutches. So that's with orange ghost and then another one with desert ghost.
Okay.
Again, you can see where I'm going to be losing space.
A lot more space, a lot more holdbacks.
So he's done really, really well for me this season, and also produced quite a few clown combos that are het xanthic then. So I'm hopefully holding a few of those back. But yeah, it's quite a lot of xanthic clown stuff that I've got there now.
And then, of course, we cut that clutch earlier, and there was a few unexpected results in there. So if you want to tell people about that, feel free. So
we had a look at my normal to pastel double het xanthic desert ghost pair. That's the pairing that produced me the pastel xanthic desert ghost last season.
Yep.
Nothing unusual last year whatsoever. Really, really nice, clean babies. But I put that down to the desert ghost. So another clutch this season, 7 eggs last season, 9 eggs this season. And cut them, everything seemed to be going normal. And then I cut one and it seemed really light. And I thought, oh my God, is that a pied? Why is there a pied in here? But it wasn't. It was an albino. So that sort of stunned me for a minute.
Yeah, understandably so.
Because I produced the double hets myself. Second guess myself, have I put the wrong male in? But I don't have a het albino male that I would have ever put in there anyway. And we'd also already seen xanthics come out. So it was definitely the right male.
And desert ghosts.
And desert ghosts. So that confused me a lot. So we continued cutting to find that there were 3 albino animals in the clutch. Now, last season there was no albinos. So I don't really know why this has popped out this year. One of them looks a bit weird. Really, really white head, almost purpley. So, and it's really, really clean. It just looks completely different. Is that an albino desert ghost? I don't know. But it's completely thrown me. I was a bit speechless, to be honest. So I really don't know what's going on there.
Certainly adds a bit of food for thought, doesn't it? Because it means then obviously everything that you've hatched from that last season was also possibly het albino.
Could be.
And then you don't know where it's coming from either. So is it coming from the parents on the mum side or the dad side?
Because the mum to the double hets is also the mum to my xanthic pied double hets. And I've paired those for 3 years running, never had albino come out. But then it could be that only one of them is het albino and the other one's not.
Yeah.
I guess.
Or it could be coming in from the male.
Yeah, or it could, the male that produced the double hets is a pastel desert ghost, who we think there might be something else going on with, but we don't know what it is. He is also the father to the really strange pastel leopards that I produced this season that are double het desert ghost clown.
Right, okay.
So is it that they are, the really weird ones are het albino, but with those leopard pastel double hets, also
Possibly.
the parent is pos het pied too? So
It could be quad hets.
it possibly could be. Is that messing with it? I don't know, but I'm going to go down a rabbit hole thinking about that. So
It's quite a tricky one to prove out as well, isn't it? trying to work out how to get it back into your projects and keep things going forward the way you want them to, with extra genes floating around in there.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's not albino, because as much as I do like albino, mainly it's albino pieds for me. I'm not too fussed on the rest of the albino stuff for my collection. So if I was to finally produce a desert ghost clown and it turned out to be albino, for me that would ruin it a little bit. Although
away from the
genetically
glory.
it would be great, but it would sort of dampen down the visual look that I'm
Yeah.
after. And I'm not too sure whether I'd be able to identify albino desert ghost, although the one in the egg looks different, so that could be it.
Yeah,
There
I've
could be
never seen
natural
one to say.
variation. I have absolutely no idea, so I'm a bit.
I've
bit
only ever
lost on
seen
this
a
one.
lavender desert ghost.
And I mean, I'm assuming these are albino in the egg. I've not hatched lavender albinos, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I'm assuming albino.
but there
we
was
shall
certainly
see.
some form of albino, because they were
Exactly.
bright white and yellow with red eyes. So
I know.
something's going on
crazy.
somewhere.
Absolutely crazy. So that gobsmacked me today, because I was really hoping for 2 axanthic desert ghost animals, because I'd just hit the 2 axanthic pieds and the 2 axanthic clowns. So I was hoping to continue my run.
And instead you got 3 albinos.
Yeah, but there may be an axanthic desert ghost in there, but not really sure.
Time
Because
will
I
tell.
thought it was an axanthic, you thought it was a desert ghost.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping we're both right.
yeah.
But-
I've never hatched axanthics, so
I've hatched.
don't know what they're like in the egg.
I have. That doesn't look like a single gene axanthic. It's either a pastel axanthic that's
Right.
really clean from the desert ghost, or it's the axanthic desert
ghost.
ghost. It's not a pastel axanthic desert ghost, because I've hatched one of those and it's
Yeah.
not bright enough.
Okay.
But we will see when it comes out.
So what's next for you going forward? What are your sort of projects going forward? What are you going to be working with mainly?
I've still got, I think, 7 clutches left to hatch this season.
Okay. How many have you had so far?
Now you're asking? 10.
Okay.
Because I've got 17 in total.
Quite a busy season for you
Really
then.
busy. I was hoping for a busy season, because last season was really quiet for me, because when I was pregnant I wasn't feeding up the animals as much, I wasn't pairing as much, and I knew I couldn't manage that many.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of make up for it this season. I kind of assumed maybe a 50 to 60% success rate. So I ended up pairing and seeing locks with 20 females.
Okay.
So I thought maybe 10 to 12 clutches. Usually I average about 6 eggs per clutch. I thought
Yeah.
that's going to be a busy season for me. Unfortunately, I've been more successful than I'd anticipated, and I've had 17 girls go, and I've had clutches that are 8, 9, 10 eggs. So it's been a little bit of a overwhelming shock, so I won't be pairing that many next season. But the problem with me is I get so excited about pairings and so excited about projects, I've got a few too many on the go.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait for the next year to pair them, especially if some pairings don't go and then I haven't paired another pair and I've sort of dropped them for another pair that hasn't gone.
You get FOMO.
So, yeah, I'll have to be a little bit more strict next year on myself. But I've got the possibility of making, I think, pinstripe, pastel, leopard, desert ghost pieds is the top combo
Okay. That'd be
that
cool.
I could be looking at. I mean, likely it'll just be normal possets again.
Or some more albinos.
Yeah, oh, no, don't. So, yeah, I've got that project. I've got 2 clutches there. Desert ghost pied possibilities. What else have I got left? Some genetic stripe stuff. That'll be pos het axanthic, genetic stripe stuff. No, clown stuff that'll be pos het genetic stripe. A few bits and bobs left. I think the main ones this year that I was looking forward to have hatched now or we've cut today. then it's just moving on to next season.
So I'm guessing next season you're going to be shooting for more triple het clutches and pushing those forward a bit more.
Probably, yeah. The triple het clutch that I did this year was Orange Ghost Pied Ultramel.
Okay.
I had 5 eggs and I hit 4 pastels and an Orange Ghost. So
great odds.
for me, that wasn't the best. So I will be trying again next year and hoping for a bit more there. Ideally, I wanted Ultramel Pieds, Ghost Pieds. But obviously I didn't hit either. I also paired this season an Ultramel Het Pied to Max's Pied Het Ultramel in a joint project, but she hasn't gone. So we may continue that next year. I think Max might be taking my female so that he can use his male to other females as well, now that they're up to size. And I also paired a double het pair of Ultramel Tri-Stripes, and they haven't gone either. So they'll be going back pairing next season. Hopefully hit some of those as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some interesting projects there. And I know for a fact there's other stuff lurking away as well that you're probably going to be working with as well. So plenty to keep you busy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's trying to streamline. But what I'm finding is I only want to streamline once I've hit the double visuals or hit some triple visuals. But then again, I don't want to sell things until that double visual or triple visual is breeding, just in case they don't breed. So even though I've hit stuff, I'm still waiting.
You're still keeping the parental stock.
Yeah. So hopefully, eventually I will be able to slim down. But there's a few things now, like the Xanthic Pied, now that I've finally hit them, after holding a load of stuff back, like I can sell some male visual posset pieds now because I've got the male double visual.
Yeah. That should free up a bit of room and a bit of time for you then with feeding all the hatchlings and things.
I don't want to hoard things that I'm not necessarily going to get the benefit out or use when someone else can get that sort of step into the project then.
Absolutely. So one thing you alluded to there was sort of joint pairings. Now, obviously, we've done quite a few joint pairings in the past. I know you've done pairings with Max and Mark. How do you sort of arrange those? What do you what guidelines, what parameters do you set out with?
I think it really depends on who you're doing the pairing with, what the pairing is. Because like I used to do joint pairings with a friend that used to be in the hobby that's no longer in the hobby. And we had quite a good deal going that whoever had the female there and was doing the pairings, when the clutch hatched, we do like picking a football team or a netball team. So whoever had the female would pick the first animal, then the other person would pick the second one until you each had sort of your team. Yeah. And then the person with the male would like take their hatchlings home. They would sort of raise those hatchlings and then they could keep them or sell them, do whatever they wanted with them. That worked out really well. But then we were local. So, you didn't worry about taking freshly hatched hatchlings, on a car journey because it wasn't long and it didn't really make much of a difference. And then, for example, with our pairings, you did me a massive favour taking some of my girls when I was struggling, when I was pregnant and throwing up all over the place. So it was a struggle to look after them all. And a lot of the girls that you had were girls that either I didn't have plans for, or I would thinking, do I sell them or do I do something? So I'm not so concerned about what's paired with them because I'm not doing it for my own holdbacks. So, I mean, with our arrangement, then that's a little bit more relaxed that you keep what you want and we'll split the rest of them.
Split what's left, yeah.
Because that's more of a, you're helping me out as well, rather than, just trying to get the hatchlings. And yeah, I mean, it depends. Like with Mark, I just wanted to prove out the male before I sold it. And he wanted to, he had the animals to prove it out.
Yeah.
So I'm not so after the hatchlings or worried about.
It's just a fact-finding mission more than anything.
Exactly. So it really depends on who you're working with and what's going to benefit each of you. But I would say don't do a joint pairing unless you're happy to lose that animal. Because worst case scenario, if you fall out with a person or if something goes wrong, just be prepared that you get nothing from it and you lose the animal, because that's the worst case scenario there. So try not to lend something out that
that you're waiting for project work or something.
Yeah, or that you really sort of, I wouldn't spend $5,000 and then loan that out. But then, I mean, other people have got a lot more money than I have, so they wouldn't worry about that as much as I do. But but that's with anything. If you're lending someone money, I always think don't lend out what you can't afford to lose,
Yeah, exactly. It's a gamble, isn't it, at the end of the day?
That's just, for me, anything about lending, not just the snakes, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. So another thing that you are doing that's fairly unique in the UK is ambient temperatures.
Yeah.
Or ambient heating, should I say, rather. How did that come about? What made you sort of go down that route? Was it something you'd looked at for a while? Or it filled a need that I had, but I didn't know that existed until Jackie Millman was doing it, because me and Jackie were quite close and, messaging all the time. And she said, "Oh, girls, I think I'm going to do ambient heating." And I was like, "What do you mean?" So she explained that, it's no heat mats, no heat cable, no CHEs. It's just like heating the room so that the tubs are a certain temperature. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that, Jackie. That scares me a bit." She was like, "I know, I'm petrified, but I've been watching people do it." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So we were talking about it in depth. So I'm going to leave all the heat mats in and just like off. So if it all cocks up, I can just turn everything back on. So we were sort of like heavily involved in her trialing that and getting it all done properly. And after about a year and her saying her electricity bills went down, the girls were all doing fine. They'd produced eggs fine. None of them had RIs. None of them were ill, because that was obviously the panic of, oh my God, the temps aren't going to be right. They were all feeding fine. And it was like, well, that could work. In the meantime, I think years and years back, probably like when I first started, I had an animal with RI, and it really stressed me out. My anxiety levels were just absolutely massive with it, to the point where still now, if I hear a whistle in the room or a squeak, I start panicking. But it could be anything, like birds outside. It could be the husband playing Xbox with missiles downstairs. It could be the underwire of my bra squeaking. And I just get really, really anxious. And part of that anxiety was, are they the right temperature? And I panic then, because I'm thinking, well, should the temperature be that much on top of the substrate or under the substrate? Because some of them are going under the substrate, moving the substrate. And then some of them are on top of a pile of substrate. So are they getting enough heat? But if I turn it up, the ones that are on the tub will be too hot. Hotter,
And you can probably tell the way I'm talking now, you can feel how anxious I am when I'm talking more fast about it. And then I'd be starting to panic. And then I got the vision racks, which were cable, and I couldn't get the temperatures proper in there, because when the stat was on them, they wouldn't really get hot enough. And then if I put the stat further away, they were overheating. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then you see all these things on Facebook about, oh, my heat mats sort of melted and burnt. And I think one heat mat went one day and I hadn't realised, but it wasn't heating anymore. And I mean, no one checks every heat mat every day.
No.
It's impossible to do. You might do spot checks, do that one day, that one day. But how long could it be when one heat mat's not working?
Yeah. Could be ages.
Again, so my anxiety over it was quite large. And talking to Jackie through it, and I was like, how much easier would it be just coming in? I've got 2 oil-filled radiators on 2 stats that show the temperature digitally with fans. You can feel the heat when you walk in. So if it feels ridiculously hot or cool, then you know to check and stuff, but you don't have to check all the mats. And it's just the anxiety from that perspective was just gone for me. And once I knew that Jackie's animals hadn't all died in a year, which was the panic about something new. I watched Jackie like as a guinea pig, but she'd watched someone, I can't remember who it is, I feel awful. But he had done it in Europe, I think it was, for over a year. So she'd watched for a year, then I'd watched for a year. And then I thought, screw it, I'll try it. And it did take quite a while to get going. To make sure everything was right. It's still not perfect, but it's like, I know if I up the temps a bit more than they should be to ensure that they're at their lowest temps on the cooler parts, so it really depends on your room, your racks, the shape of your room, how well your room holds the temperature. So it's not going to be exactly the same settings for everyone or the same placements. You just got to fiddle with it for a while until it's right. And again, now I've got a new rack and it's in a different position. I'm having to play about a bit now to make sure that the temps are stable enough in that part of the room. So that's my next task.
So what temperature do you heat to sort of all year round?
Well, it changes. So in the winter, it's cooler. And where people say, you know, drop in your temps in the winter, I never used to when I was using mats.
Yeah.
Because our natural ambient temperature drops in this country anyway. So it kind of does it naturally. But if you're heating the ambient, then they don't get that drop because your heaters are just heating it up again. So we work in Fahrenheit for the ambient temperatures because that's what I was taught and I can't convert it back. So you're looking at being a minimum of 82 in the winter.
Okay. I mean,
which concerned me because it sounded really low.
It's about 25-ish? 25, 26, I think roughly.
It's a little bit more, but I'm not sure. So in order for my lowest racks to be 82, I set my thermostat to 84. And then that gives me sort of a gradient on the bottom of 82 and on the top of about 84, 84.5. But I'd rather than be a little bit warmer than go under the minimum and risk anything
82
happening.
is 27.7 degrees.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's actually fairly warm.
So what I tend to do is put my breeding males on the bottom to keep them that little bit cooler.
Yeah.
And that's worked out quite well for me. And then come April, then the temps go up. We're looking for 86 degrees. And again, I set mine for 87, 88 to get that sort of 86 on the bottom.
Sure.
And again, in the summer, we get a natural heat as well. So the heaters aren't generally working that much.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do get hotter than that temperature. But I mean, they do for people using mats anyway. But it just means that I don't have the ambient room temp at like 32 Celsius, which has been known to happen with this sort of weather, and heat mats on top.
Yeah.
Which will be still heating up because if they're set to 33, 34, they're still heating up even with the ambient at 32. So that's when things get quite overheated.
Although they're not heating to full capacity, they're still
on, aren't they? So this way, if the room is at 32, my heaters are off.
Yeah.
So that's where you save that bit of electricity as well.
Have you noticed a difference in cost in your sort of running costs?
I could not tell you. The issue I've got is I don't know how much the snake room was using before. And while I was switching over to ambient, we were also switching on to solar panels. And we switched energy suppliers. So I have nothing really to compare it to. But I mean, if I was that interested, I could have a look in the wattage of how many mats I was using, how many cables and, things like that. But yeah, it's not more because I haven't been worried about spending more. That's as much as I can tell you, really.
Okay. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone that sort of wants to maybe look into doing ambient?
I would say talk to someone who has done it and is doing it. One, to put your mind at rest. And it's just a suck it and see thing. Like fans are essential really to move around the heat. So it's angling them at the right place to move the heat in the right position that you need for the shape of your room and everything. And it's just trying it out. What I would say is to try it out in the summer, first off. That's my personal opinion. Because once you turn off all the heat mats and cables, it's already warm in the room. So if your temperatures drop,
it's not going to be as noticeable.
It's not going to drop below the 82, which is the minimum for the winter.
Yeah.
So that you've got that room for error then, where you're not going to
got a bit of a buffer
go
just
too
in case.
cold. Yeah, that would be my sort of advice. And what I did was I left all the heat mats on, I left all the cables on, got the temps right, and then rack by rack turned one rack of heat mats off, give it like 2 days, made sure everything was still correct, then another one, because as you're turning off more and more heat mats, the ambient is going to go slightly down.
Yeah.
And then just if you needed a tweak, just up them a little bit and sort of until everything's off.
Yeah.
And then, and then if you move racks around or there's any changes, you're going to have to tweak it again. So, it's being mindful of that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah. It's something I was potentially looking at when I was building the snake room, but I think I might just wait now until the extension's done in a few years' time, and maybe go ambient throughout that.
Yeah. I think you really, if you're doing ambient, you want to make sure that the room holds heat well.
Yeah.
Because if you're losing heat from somewhere, it's gonna rinse you, really, isn't it? Whereas heat mats, they're only heating like the tub
Certain
bottom, so
portion,
you're not sort of worried about losing so much heat. And just be aware that for people like me that are from this country that are used to crappy, cool weather, it's really hot in there, trying to clean things out, looking at things. People come over to look at my collection or buy things, and they're in a hoodie and in the winter, and I'm like, you might want to take that off. They're like, oh, no, I'm all right. They come into the room, shut the door, and they're like, geez, I'm going to take this off now. And I'm like, well, I did say, because it is hot. And when you're cleaning stuff out, trying to do it in just like shorts and a top, just, hair up, because you're just sweating buckets, and God forbid someone like knocks on the door in the middle of that because you're like a hot, sweaty mess. So it's not as comfortable, when people come round, to spend hours chatting in there and sort of looking at everything, because you are sort of fanning yourself and sweating.
It's not the most comfortable place to be then.
It's not, but I think for me, especially with my anxiety over stuff, I know
it puts your mind
I know
at ease
that
a
it's
little bit.
safe. I know that it's all taken care of. I can buy racks. I'm not spending out on the heat mats and the stats.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier then. And I know if I'm overloaded now with hatchlings, which is a little bit of a concern, worst case scenario, I can just buy tubs and I can put them on the floor.
Yeah.
Lidded, obviously. Because the temps are okay for
Stable
ambient
enough to do
wise
it in
there.
there.
Yes, they'll be in the way and I'll have to keep moving them and it'll be really annoying. But worst case scenario, I can do that. I'm not worrying about having to buy a rack with heating and stats. Because I can just dump them down there. Where I'd had way more clutches than I thought. I'd filled my 2 incubators. So I've been having a couple of clutches at a time out on the side.
Okay.
In one of the hottest bits of the room. Because that's been sort of like between 86 and 87 degrees, which if my incubator's like 88 to 89,
it shouldn't be too much of a difference.
It just gives a little bit of extra time on them.
A couple of extra days. And
but especially once I've cut them or once they're ready to hatch and stuff, I've just put them on the side. And they've been perfectly fine. So that's been quite helpful.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if I didn't have that, I'd be looking at like trying to get a polybox incubator and like panicking about that. So it has been
You've got a travel
useful.
box now, you don't need a poly box.
Well, I do now, but I don't mind now because I've got space in my incubator now, haven't I?
True. So you mentioned that you're going to get sort of like overrun with hatchlings and stuff. What's the sweet spot for you? Where do you want to be at sort of number wise and
I think for me,
clutch-wise
10
throughout
to
the year?
12 nice size clutches would be a comfortable busy season.
Yeah.
So this season is going to be manic. I've taken like a day a week off work for the next sort of month or two to try and keep up with everything. Because now with the baby as well, I'm finding my time isn't my own. So I've got to take time off while he's in nursery to be able to actually get stuff done. But yeah, I mean, I've had like 10 to 12 clutches before and it's been fine. But then some of the clutches have been 3 eggs.
Okay, so
smaller
you out a little bit,
clutches. Yeah, so that gave me like a false sense of how many I'd be dealing with, really. So this season, when I got all big clutches, even from like first time mums, so can't complain.
Great in
though,
some
can you?
respects, but bad in the other if you're running out of room, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think I've got 2 hatchling spaces free at the moment, and I've got 7 clutches left to hatch.
And how many left in the incubator?
7 clutches. Well, 6 clutches and 1 due to be laid.
Okay.
So I'm looking at, I've arranged to buy another rack from someone. I'm possibly looking at buying another hatchling rack now, getting that in, and then just spare tubs around the place if I need to. But I have got some going, so that's going to free up some space now next week.
So where do you want to be at in terms of like adults and breeder females?
It's hard to say really because I don't want to sell anything and I want to keep all the projects. But the racks that I've got in my room now, if they were all full, that's my limit.
No more room to go.
No, and one, there's no more room in the room. I've rearranged stuff a few times, as you know, and it's a bit like Tetris in there. And I think now I'm at capacity where I can't squeeze another rack in anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm glad about that, really, because if I was to squeeze more racks in, I would fill them. and I'm at capacity really, because I do all the work myself. I don't have any help to do any of that. If I had more, I would struggle to maintain, the cleanliness, the feeding, and all of that. So I need to be mindful as well that I don't have someone to help me do it. And especially with a baby now, it is becoming a bit more difficult, demanding on my time.
I guess at least if you're running out of room and you can't actually add anything, it means you've got to be ruthless with what you keep, what you hold back, what you sell.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at today. I mean, we were looking today, weren't we? And I was like, do I keep or sell this?
Yeah,
what's your plans with it?
With
well,
things.
I just really like it. No, it's going. Oh, but sometimes I need someone that's a little bit more ruthless and doesn't have any sort of
emotional
biases and emotion.
Yeah,
because some of the animals I've got, like I've hatched, or I really like them, and they're like really nice temperament, and they're just lovely snakes, and I'm just like, yes, I could use them, but are they further in my plans, or am I just making something pretty? But I like to make a pretty something, but then I'm not going to justify pairing that animal over a double het, triple het, visual pos het, something like that, because it's not even recessive. It's just looks nice. So that animal realistically will just sit in the rack, and I'll think, oh, I'll pair that next year when I don't have so much to pair.
Yeah.
But I'll always have much more to pair because I can't slim down. So yeah, I think I need to be a bit more ruthless now and move on, or see if anyone wants to do joint parents with them, so I don't actually have to lose them.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Take them off my hands for a bit.
Yeah,
and then make the decision later when I'm less emotionally attached to them.
So, talking of making pretty things, you've also got the printing side of things as well.
Yeah.
How is that going? How did it come about? What sort of made you jump into that sort of side of things?
What it was, I was off on maternity for a start, which gave me free time a little bit. When the baby was small, he just used to sleep all day. So devil makes work for idle hands, doesn't it? But I was looking at buying some snake bags, and I messaged Sam Whitlock, who was doing my bags at the time. And because of COVID and getting his business back on track, he said he wasn't really taking on much printing these days. I thought, oh, what am I going to do then? I thought, oh, maybe I can do something. I had a look. I was looking at like the vinyl stuff. I was like, oh, I don't really like it because it peels off. And so I was like doing a bit of research like I do, because if I'm going to do something, I like to put my head right into it and know everything about it, even if I don't do it in the end. And I was like, oh, this looks good. I'll have a look at this. I thought, oh, it's a bit expensive, and that to start up. And I thought, oh, but I really like it. And you can do other things with it. I was justifying it to myself then. And I was like, oh, I could make this and I could make that. Oh, it'd be great. So I thought, well, I could maybe offer out some stuff. And if, like, say one person a month wants a couple of bits or something, I can justify it then. Because I'm getting a little bit back, So I gave myself a loan out of my snake fund to buy all the equipment for it. And the idea was just to make my own snake bags. Yeah. And if anyone wanted some, then they could. But it was just to do my own stuff, and I justified it as thinking someone else would want stuff. And then pretty much as soon as I thought I'll put a page on, because then I can sort of like display show off what I'm doing, and it gives me something else to do while I'm sat there watching really crappy telly with the baby sleeping. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, can I have this? Can I have that? Oh, can I have that? And as I say, with me, I like to put my head right into it. I was like, oh, what else can I do? Oh, I can make this. Oh, I can make that. So to keep me busy, I was just buying one of this, one of that, and having a go. And I was like, oh, I really like these. And when I was saying, oh, look what I've done, people are like, oh, can I have that? Can I have that? So it just sort of grew like absolutely crazy. Like there was times where I had about 6-7 orders at the time. And obviously with the baby sleeping, I could crack through them, and it kept me busy, and it was quite fun. And yeah, it just sort of went from there. I made my initial investment back, I think, after about 6-7 months.
Okay, so it's pretty quickly, really.
Surprisingly so, yeah. And it's just gone on and on. I was a bit worried going back to work, because then I have basically no time. And luckily things went a bit quieter then. But now I think as hatchling season, things are starting to pick up a bit. But I'm having to say to people, like, it is going to be a 2 to 3 week wait. Because
I think that's reasonable.
And I'll try and do them quicker. And, with one, I think it was out within 5 days when I said 2 or 3 weeks. But it just depends on what time I've got.
Yeah.
at that moment in time, and you know how long deliveries take, if I've got other stuff on, so I can still do things, but it just might not be as quick. So yeah, I'm just very mindful. I don't want to take on too much, and sort of people be waiting and waiting and waiting. So, but yeah, 3 orders waiting.
I mean,
now.
I've obviously ordered quite a fair few things through either the snakes or for the podcast sort of merch and stuff, and the quality is fantastic. The snake bags are really good. The printing on the t-shirts and the hoodies and stuff is, exceptional quality. And I don't think really there's probably much better out there on the market at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about it is there's such a variety of things that I can do that what I found as well, because I'm a bit cheeky, is people ask for something and I say, well, here's everything I do, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I'll have that as well. And
nice bit of upselling.
Yeah, definitely. And just like the key rings, they're not overly expensive, and it's just that nice little something, that most people can have then. And with so many people with logos and things, and keeping it within the community, I think, as well, because anyone can go to Vistaprint and and get stuff printed. But then I've done that before for mugs, and
so
they've come and I'm like,
rubbish.
why is the logo funny colour, or why is it slightly lower than it should have been?
Yeah.
But because you're designing it on the computer,
you can't really see it.
Yeah, and you might have just moved it a little bit. Whereas if someone's actually doing it, they're eyeing it up for you. You know what I mean? It's not relying on, and if you've used the wrong image, because a lot of people try to use JPEGs instead of PNGs, which if you're just got the image, you don't really care what it is.
Yeah.
But then it might have like little lines on it or little background colour, which you can see when it prints and it looks crap. But if you've got someone that you actually know that's sort of checking it for you, like, oh, if you've got a different version of that file, you can get a better quality. Then it's not with these print on demand services. It's just like, we'll print whatever you give us.
Yeah, you send us the picture and whatever's on there, that'll go in the system and we'll print that off.
Yeah, even if it's going to look awful.
Yeah, I've had that a few times.
Yeah.
So, best and worst things about the hobby for you?
Oh, best things. I think there's 2 elements. The best thing about the actual hobby for me is finally producing something that you've been trying to produce for so long, that's your passion. Because it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be like, a double gene that's not even recessive, that's so easy to make, but that's just something that you wanted to make yourself, and then you finally made it. And that's for me or for anyone else, and seeing that passion, like the Xanthic Pieds now, this is the 3rd year I've been trying after making the double hets as well. So we're looking, 7
Reaping
years,
the rewards of it,
and I finally, I hit 2, which is crazy, but to finally get that, I could have gone out and bought one ages ago. I could have gone out and bought like recessive hets to put together, which should have been quicker rather than doing it the long way. But for me, I don't have the passion in buying them.
Yeah.
The passion for me is trying to get those odds and doing it myself. So that's the highlight, really, is when that finally comes to fruition, and you're just like dancing on the ceiling then, because it's like, I've done it. Look what I have done.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then the other side of it then is what comes alongside the hobby, which is the community. I've met really good friends through the hobby. And again, it's not just about the snake stuff then. You meet people that you connect with on the hobby level, but then you meet people that you connect with on a personal level as well. And just like the socials, like the shows. The shows are good, but for me, it's that social and getting to meet up with people. You've got that sort of common interest to start with.
Well, the show doesn't really change, does it? The show's to show, whether it's
especially after years,
a March
you're not looking at buying
or November,
anything.
nothing really changes.
Yeah, so I mean that sort of, and the support there and the friendships there, and I think on the other side of that, the worst thing again is the people. Because you've got really good sides of people, you've got sort of more negative sides of people, and you get that in all walks of life.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the negativity in the hobby is as devastating as the positivity is rewarding.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think the times that I've been like, I don't know whether I want to stay in this hobby anymore, has never been to do with the snakes.
Yeah.
It's been to do with negative drama that's been going on within the hobby that sort of just dragged it down, because I scroll Facebook and Instagram like death scrolling, just like sort of looking for hours and losing time, just looking at pretty snakes, looking at what people are doing. And when I do that, I don't want to be seeing all the hatred and the drama, because that stresses me out.
Yeah.
Especially when it's people that I know or people that I like are being sort of involved in it. And it just kind of feels like there's some sort of war going on that doesn't need to go on. And that sort of thing, it just raises my anxiety. It raises my sort of negativity. And I mean, I can be negative myself. I don't need help.
Negativity breeds negativity.
Yeah, I really don't need help in making everything more negative. So I think that's the biggest negative for me. And at that point, then I just feel like sort of jacking it in. But then I got to Snake Room, I'm like, no, what am I going to jack that in for? I just need to jack Facebook in.
That is it. I think that's what Eddie said, actually.
Yeah, but then I'm just like, well, I don't want to jack Facebook in because I actually spend a lot of time on Facebook.
I think Eddie's words were, I've had enough of these twats on Facebook.
Yeah, and I think it's just, for me, and it's just about trying to sort of put my big girl pants on and ignoring them. But yeah, just taking it for what it is and not being so invested in people in the hobby that aren't my besties. Do you know what I mean? And it's just sort of letting it go over your head sometimes, because I don't want to not be involved and not speak to certain people because certain people have said this and certain people have said that. I just don't have the space.
It's playground stuff a lot of the time as well. I
just don't have it in me. So I'm just like, I will treat you as you've treated me, and I'll take you for who for who you are, and just try not to get involved in the drama. I mean, we all have a little bitch and a moan every now and again, don't we? To friends and
Yeah, I think that's natural.
But it's when it becomes sort of open for everyone to see and join in and jump on bandwagons.
When it's open season on Facebook,
I know, and it's just like it's tiring, and it's. Yeah, so I think that's the negative part for me, because it's a hobby at the end of the day, and the snake world is my escape from real life.
Yeah.
So when I'm stressed or when I'm upset or anxious or just feel like I can't be bothered with life anymore, I can go up and do the snakes and I feel a bit better. It's like that therapy.
Everything's forgotten. Yeah.
So as soon as that is sort of threatened with negativity as well, it's kind of like there's no escape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is really important. I think just to be mindful of what you're putting out there. Yes, it's a hobby. Yes, it's your personal life. Yeah, it's your Facebook. You can put whatever you want on it. But I think, as you say, negativity breeds negativity. And yeah, it's just not a nice place to be, is it?
Not at all. So 3 best bits of advice that you would give to someone coming into the hobby wanting to start breeding?
3. I swear you asked other people for 1.
All right. 3 pieces of advice.
Okay. I'm trying to think, not just to say what everyone else has said. I think before you buy stuff, just really think about what it is you want to do. Do you want to just make pretty snakes to sell? Do you want to make stuff specifically for you? And make sure that you buy what is going to achieve that. Because for some people, they've got plenty of money and they can afford to buy the end goal anyway.
Yeah.
And they're not too fussed about making it. Well, I'd say just go out and buy that then.
Yeah.
People like me who can't necessarily afford it but want it, then go out and buy those ingredients. So I think it's just making sure you've got that clear plan, because everyone goes out and just buys whatever, when they start.
Buy on impulse and
things like
that.
But really think about what you're in it for. If you are in it just to make pretty snakes to sell, then go out with that in mind.
Yeah.
If that's not what you want to do, really think about it. Don't be afraid to buy hets from reputable sources. You don't have to sort of just get visuals or, because it's a really good, cheaper way in if you are sort of money-minded in that respect. But so I guess secondly, buy from reputable people. And that doesn't mean they have to be huge or, they have to be really big names. You don't have to go over to America with well-known breeders to get a reputable source, but just someone that's got a bit of history about them, that you've seen how they behave. Because they could have really great animals, but they could just be an absolute dick to deal with. And, you know, you could end up being ripped off, lose your money, things like that. So just make sure that someone else has sort of given them a bit of a thumbs up of, yeah, they're a decent person and their collection is healthy and, you know, they're not going to rip you off for money. Because I see a lot of new people coming into the hobby and they're speaking to me, oh, we bought this from so-and-so, was this, and it wasn't that, and this person ripped us off.
Yeah, and those sort of names pop up over and over again.
They do, and, you know, a lot of the time it's like, oh, if you'd have asked me, I would have maybe suggested you went somewhere else, you know, with all due respect to that person, when you've heard too many bad stories, you know. But, and again, it's difficult because you can't really name and shame people for things, and often there's two sides to stories anyway. But yeah, sometimes when you see the same seller, you know, with issues from buyers over and over again, you know, so it's just try and check out someone who's been in the hobby for a while. Is this person decent? Or, you know, and sometimes people have checked on me and I have never heard of them and I couldn't say a bad thing or a good thing about them, but it's comforting for them then, I think, possibly to know that, well, no news is good news, isn't it?
I guess so.
So yeah, that's my second bit of advice. So it's know what you want before you buy it. Buy from someone reputable, especially when it's hets.
Definitely. Nothing worse than pairing a female up for seasons and seasons and seasons and getting countless numbers of eggs and getting nothing from it because you've bought from an untrusted source.
And I guess for me, it's just be patient.
I think that's a good bit of advice, actually.
That goes across so much stuff. Like, buy hatchlings, be patient to raise them because you learn how to raise hatchlings that way. You start in with all breeder females and breeder males and you've bred and you've got a clutch, but can you actually get them feeding? You know, there was a chap a few years ago who came to me and said, I can't get these hatchlings feeding, my first clutch. He'd bought breeding weight stuff. He had them in like 33 litre rubs, you know, hatchlings. And you're just thinking, oh my God, have you never raised a hatchling? No, I bought them adults. And it's the things that I have learned raising hatchlings and raising numbers of hatchlings, then you get the difficult ones that might need assisting. You get, you know, the ones that have different personalities, like different things. Once you've had that experience, when you've got a clutch and you're raising hatchlings, you've kind of built up those skills and that knowledge. And as well, you know your animals better, so you know what's normal for them, what's not normal, what sort of signs they show when they're ready for breeding. Whereas if you just buy proven weight, you know, proven ready to breed stuff, you haven't learned all that with them either.
You're just going through the process, aren't you?
You're going in blind really, and you don't have that experience, which for me is most of the fun, like learning all of that. So it's having the patience to learn through experience. Yeah. And then as well, like with longer term projects, having that patience. Yeah, you might not have hit what you wanted the first year. You know, you didn't hit a double visual the first year you tried. You're not guaranteed to. No. Try again next year, not get disheartened by it. Yeah. Keep trying. You know, longer term projects are going to take longer time to achieve. That's by the nature. If you have a bad season, if you have, you know, deformed babies or something like that, which can happen, having that patience to persevere through it, because you see so many new people starting, something doesn't go right or the way they wanted, and then they throw it all in, sell up, and they're like flash in a pan. So no, have that patience, work it through. Because it's likely if you held on for another 6 months, you'd have like achieved something that would get your passion back. Yeah, I get you. Another topic that we will discuss, and it won't be too much longer, and we'll start drawing it to a close. Obviously, being a female in quite a heavily male-dominated environment or hobby, have you had any sort of differences or difficulties because of that? I think because most of my mates have always been men anyway from school, I can sort of muck in with the boys. That's not really so much of a problem to me, being in a male-heavy environment in work. You know, there's been a lot of more males, so I'm used to that sort of environment. I'm quite sort of laddish sometimes as well. So, you know, I find most of the men in the hobby don't have to adjust the way they're talking because they're around a lady, because I'm no lady. But I think there is a little bit, you know, with people I don't know, especially if I'm with a bloke. Like one show, I brought Chris with me, my husband, and he has no idea, he doesn't care, he's not interested. Not even, if I told him to pick up the pied, he wouldn't know which one it was. Do you know what like, he's just not interested whatsoever. And we were at the show, and I found like that people would maybe think that he kept the snakes and I was the wife, that sort of wasn't that interested.
Yeah.
And I've had like people message me, assuming that I'm a male, or, when I'm sort of asking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, if you need to go and ask your husband first. And it's like, really? Things like that. And sometimes I find like at a social, I'd be sort of like automatically sort of left with the wives. And I'm like, I'm not a wife. Well, I am, but,
Yeah, I'm not one of the girls.
I'm one of the boys. I'm one of the snake people, not the, the wives that are coming along, Yeah, and it's more with strangers, really. They assume that you're just tagging along.
Yeah.
Rather than you're in it with, for your own merit. And there's not so many women in the hobby. And what I do find is that sometimes I haven't got many sort of fans as such. Some breeders have a lot of fans that sort of put their name out there. Oh, this person's so amazing at breeding. I don't have fans like that. And then when I get a message that's a little bit fanny, I get like, oh, I've got a fan. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but you do look very pretty. And I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. It's like, it's not about the snakes, is it? You're just being a pervert. So, yeah, that can be a bit annoying or disappointing, because you think, oh, finally someone's respecting what I'm doing. No.
They're just here for the boobs.
It's about the booby top.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, we're going to draw it to a close. And as always, I'm going to finish on the same question. 4 people around a table for dinner, dead or alive. Who are you choosing?
See, this one's going to be really boring for you.
Go on.
Because I've heard all the other ones and I was thinking, who would I have? And it would be my grandmother who's died.
Right.
It would be one of my ex-clients. I work in substance misuse and homelessness. And one of my ex-clients who's passed away, he was alcohol dependent, and he was just the biggest laugh. He was such a character. And when I close my eyes, I can see him and I just smile because I just think he was absolutely brilliant. I'd love to be able to see him again. And my grandmother was alcohol dependent. So them two together would be, they've got a little bit of a link there. And then my friend who died when we were 21, who incidentally had a spell of homelessness. So he sort of links up there as well. It's all the people that I would want to be there. They all have a little bit of a link. And my baby Hunter, because then he could meet his grandma and he could meet my friend who I've named Hunter. His middle name is after my friend who passed on, that I never got over his death. So it would be sort of many people that have died, but...
So what we've learned is you don't like many people who are living.
No, I do not.
That's all we've taken from that.
Yeah, I think the people that have already died can't let you down anymore, can they?
True.
But yeah, so I think, because you can have dinner with most people that are alive, can't you, apart from famous people, but I don't put much into famous people, because unless I know them personally or they've done, had an interaction with me, then I can't really rate them, really. Yeah. But yeah, so I think I'd take the opportunity to bring people back from the dead.
And what are you having for starters, mains and dessert?
Oh, I didn't think about that one. Oh, now you're asking. I think I'd probably have like the perfect cooked steak for mains.
Right, okay.
Because, if it's a magic dinner, it's going to be the best steak that you've ever had.
Possibly.
Probably maybe a red velvet cake for dessert.
Okay.
I do like a red velvet. And starters. Maybe some form of pork belly in a glaze.
I don't know why you're licking your lips now.
I love food.
And it took you that long to come up with answers?
Yeah, and sides. I mean, garlic bread, onion rings, the whole lot. You're
going for pub grub, basically, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. I'm not high class.
Like a Tex-Mex platter somewhere with some onion rings.
I mean, I like a burger.
I like burgers.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be posh to suit me.
No, not at all. I'll be happy with burgers. Burger and chips for the rest of my life. I could eat that all day long.
I do love a burger.
Absolutely no problem at all. Right, I'm going to draw this to a close. So finally, where can people find you on social media? Give you a chance to plug yourself.
Okay, so I'm on Facebook as Sian Jacobi Landon. Then I've got the Eve's Temptations Royal Pythons page on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on YouTube, but I wouldn't put too much store into that. It's not great. But there are some bits on there. And Morph Market. I think that's everything. And then the printing is Eve's Temptations Creations. That's on Facebook and Instagram. But you can message me personally if you need to. That's not a problem.
And is that the best way to order?
Yeah, the best way to order printing is through the printing page, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, just because I've got all the messages there. So it's easier for me to find when I need to refer back and find your addresses and such.
Right. Well, there you go. So Eve's Temptations Royal Pythons for the snakes and the breeder side of things. Eve's Temptations Creations for the printing side of stuff.
Yeah.
All that's left to do is say thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And see you again soon.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Darren from Wild Racks and you're listening to That Wolfie Rules podcast. If you're in the UK and looking for affordable custom enclosures, check out Wild Racks on Instagram and Facebook. Back to the podcast.
So there we go, folks. That was Sian from Eve's Temptations Royal Pythons. Really great interview with her, and I think most of you will agree that she's definitely, one of the women leading the way in the UK scene as well. So really great to sit down, chat to her, sort of find out what's going on and how she got into it, etc. As a little special token of appreciation as well, Sian is actually offering a discount on the advertised Morph Market prices this month with release of the podcast. All you have to do is use the code That Wolfie Rules podcast when inquiring about an animal on Morph Market to receive a special discount as well. And as I've said in the past as well, Sian is actually the official merchandise supplier of anything for the podcast as well. So if you do need any t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, shopping boards, etc., with either the podcast logo, if you want to support the podcast, or with your own logo on it as well, go and hit Sian up on her Eve's Temptations Creations page as well. So go and check that out too. Follow both of the social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook. I think she has a YouTube as well, which you can check out. Other than that, I'm about done for this month. That's another one in the bag. Hopefully I will see some of you guys at the SWC show, and hopefully we'll get a few of you on the microphone as well. So nothing left for me to say apart from thanks for listening and peace out.